Okay, podcast take one. All right.
Alright, so today we are going to discuss objectivity and subjectivity in existence.
Existence. All right. I'm Michael Pavey, and this is Everett Field.
Yep.
We shall begin. So, Everett, what do you think about this whole existence and subjectivity thing?
I personally think that it is both subjective and objective. That, for example, I can believe that TV exists as a TV, and it does. It's sitting there. It's objective.
Right.
But at the same time, if I was crazy and off my rocker, I could see it as some demonic lord that I have to worship, or it will kill my family. That is subjective.
That's true. So the object itself is objective, and what you think of it, of course, is subjective.
Yes.
But I would bring up the point that perhaps, presuming that we do not in fact exist, what we are looking at does not in fact exist, could not be subjective. Yeah. Not simply objective, in the fact of making it not both objective and subjective, but only subjective.
Yeah. Yes. Objectivity, subjectivity. We are going to get so turned around at the end of this. I can tell. Anyways, yes. I agree. However, let's look at the topic. What about if I am the only thing that it truly exists? I'm like some cosmic being out there in another plane of existence, and I'm thinking all of this up for my own entertainment, and I don't even know about it. Would that not make existence everything else subjective?
Yeah, it would. Presuming that we are that me, or in your case you are some higher power. Basically, you're saying that we all
God.
Yes, you have a God complex. Is what I'm getting.
Complex? Come on.
Oh, right.
Yeah, I don't have a complex. I am.
It's intriguing, but subjectivity. You think of a lot of things, and objectivity. You have to presume everything's. If presuming everything's real, objectivity, of course, is true of things. And then once you have some sort of idea about that thing, then I think it's that idea may be subjective. But does the object remain objective? Does the thing remain objective rather than becoming subjective as you develop ideas about it, or does it itself become subjective?
Well, I think if you develop separate ideas about it, then those ideas are subjective, but the original existence of that thing, like what it was at the beginning, before you've tampered with it with your mind or with physically, that is objective. It's okay, I'll give you an example. Say all human life is gone. Right. There's no more humans. The Earth still exists. Unless I was right about me being a divine being, which I think I am. But let's just say that all humans, including me and you, are gone. No more. We're just all dead. Say what we've left behind, our houses, our buildings, all of that is still there. That is objective. Our concrete sidewalks, they are still there. Our asphalt roads, they exist. That TV right there exists.
Right.
So these things still exist. They are objective. There will still be animals. Maybe one will become sentient and have the same discussion that we're having now about objectivity and subjectivity.
It's an interesting scene depicting two anteaters.
Yes.
Talking about subjectivity.
Yes. Well, when you're hungry, you can get pretty close to an anteater. But...
Oh God.
Okay, another thing. If you argue that existence is subjective, how can you argue that? Because then there needs to be at least one thing that exists for this to be happening. You have to at least exist. So therefore, it is at least a little bit objective.
Yeah, it's an interesting point because as we've made out that the existence itself could be subjective, but the existence that we know can be subjective. There has to be some sort of objective being somewhere, whether it be an objective being making us that makes then another thought. It's like an Inception sort of deal.
Yeah.
But that gets a little confusing. But it's something has to be objective. If it's not one thing, or maybe everything is objective. Everything in itself is objective. The ideas about it are not. The idea of that thing is objective.
Yeah.
Ideas about it are subjective.
Yeah. Yeah. So like, okay, so you like math, right? We have 1 + 2 = 3. Would that be objective or subjective?
I think it would be objective, but because math is a very like black and white kind of thing. There's no
Yeah,
gray
yeah,
area.
definitely.
Whereas you get something like English or even science kind of gets into a gray area in the fact that it's subject to hypotheses and theories, which brings up the point that is science not indeed some form of art and some form of
well,
higher.
I think if you wanted to make the argument that a lot of things are art, you could do that. So I don't know if we should get on that train.
That's true.
Because there are a lot of things you can argue that are art, like architecture. Like that's art, right? I mean, people have argued that that's art, but then there's people that argue that it's simply a job, and there's people that build
right. It exists. It exists to be functional.
Yeah. There are those who use it as a form of art. There are people who use it just as a job.
Right.
But, but you can argue that it is an art. There's other things that you can argue that is art, and I'm pretty sure that there's artists who have argued that their art is not art, but. You know, these arguments, they're like a dog chasing its tail. So
gotta love dogs chasing their tail.
Yeah. Another thing, though. So if we have established that something can exist subjectively and objectively, what about like deities and gods? I'm not saying like the Christian God or anything like that. Obviously,
just
the
deity in itself
to you. But let's just say some, like, the Mayan deities.
Right.
Just by believing in them, like that large congregation that they had a critical mass in, like, South America. Does that not make it, like, either objective or subjective? I mean, it would obviously be objective to them because they believe.
It would be objective to them, but I think, in fact, it's subjective is the fact that they believe. It's their idea. Like, they're thinking, oh, that thing exists. And I think it doesn't exist, and therefore it's subjective because it's not there. It's not a tangible object. You need something tangible, I think, for something to be objective.
Yeah. So wouldn't that argue against like math? I mean, you could argue that like the theory of 1 + 2. I mean, you can't catch wild numbers outside. You can't run outside and find a 1. But you can put like one cookie and another cookie together, and you have 2 cookies. So would that not make that idea like? Would that not make math a tangible thing?
Yeah, math is tangible.
Okay.
The idea of math isn't tangible. The idea of anything isn't tangible, but it's also it's an interesting point now. It's sort of contradicting in the way that it's things that aren't tangible are subjective, but on the other hand, the ideas of things, which ideas aren't tangible, are in fact, I believe, objective, because they're the simplest form, and it's just like the idea of a desk. That is a desk, and it's objective. Like I'm thinking, I'm going to make this desk. As long as until you get to the point where I think this desk is useful, I think this desk isn't useful, then you get into subjectivity.
Yeah, for example, like someone might see it as a desk, another person might see it as a table, another person might see it as a very big paperweight. So, you could argue that these things are subjective, like that's a subjective idea on a twist. But the original purpose is that it's a desk. And that I guess you could argue that objectively it is wood, like nailed together to form a desk with like metal on it. That's the objective. Existence of it. But subjectively, we have established that it is a desk, it is a paperweight, and it is a table.
Right.
That's the subjective idea of it. But it was originally those materials that we used to make it.
Yeah. So what I'm drawing from this is, in fact, it's very hard to determine whether something is something exists somewhere that's objective, but everything is both subjective and objective, and it's sort of a strange It's a strange coincidence. It's almost paradox-like. Yeah, they're total opposites, and they both exist on the same.
Yeah, kind of like
being.
Kind of like an oxymoron, right?
Right.
Like Bart Simpson when he says in French that he doesn't speak French. I don't actually know how to say that. my French relatives are rolling in their beds.
Right.
Actually, wait, wouldn't they be in a different time zone right now? So they'd be like sitting up watching TV.
Yeah,
they're cringing right now. They're cringing.
Dead people's habits are a mystery to me.
They're not dead. They're live. I have my cousin Paul. He lives in Quebec.
Oh, right.
He's always been irked by the fact that I hate the French language.
And we're editing this part out.
All right.
Sorry to our French listeners.
Yeah. Sorry, guys. I don't actually hate your language.
I hate it because I love.
I hate it because I can't wrap my mind around it. So sorry about that.
All right. Well, I think we got a place in here that we can end, or at least we've got a good place.